Welcome to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.
Thanks for checking into the best Houston sports podcast, part of the National Bleav Network. And joining me to talk about the newest Rocket is Clayton Anderson, a contributor to the Battle Red blog and the Crawfish Boxes site, among others. And it's great to have you back, Clayton. Good to see the Rockets offseason news keep coming as long as it's not bad news.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. Yep.
Yeah, just the big news. Who's the new Rocket? Everybody should know by now, Josh Okogie, 2018 first-round pick, 20th overall from Georgia Tech. I'm guessing he's the first Rocket from Lagos, Nigeria since who was that guy again? Oh, yeah, that's I think they used to call him the Dream. And that means there's the Nigerian connection as well with Udoka, which I'm going to come back to later. But just a little bit on Okogie, Clayton. He's a 6'4" wing, 7-foot wingspan, who's known for his man-to-man defense. Last year, he played 25 games for Kevin Durant's Suns before he was dealt to Charlotte. Bounced around in the league a little bit. 3 teams were the 4th team. Clayton, what was your initial reaction to the Okogie signing?
Very random, out of nowhere. Not to say I thought we were done by any stretch, but I mean, if there was any more room to pick up a body, Josh Okogie would not have been a name that I come up with. But did a little bit of digging on Okogie. I mean, look, I think depth piece. I'm gonna ask you what you think, but some people around the Twitter space, or the X space rather, around the Rockets community, look at it as like why would you do this, or this good thing? I have no idea. I just know it screams depth to me, looking into the true shooting stats and all that stuff. So, but what are your thoughts, though?
Okogie as a 14th guy on the roster is fine, but my issue with the signing is his lack of shooting or ball creation, which is what this team needed more of. Isn't he just Jason Okogie? I mean, it's a replica of Jason Tate. I value roster versatility in this era, and Okogie feels redundant to me. And remember, Clayton, we're going to see a ton of Aaron Holiday if Van Vliet gets hurt or Shepard struggles. Amen, Van Vliet, and Shepard, the 3 main ball handlers, missed 40-plus games due to injury last year. Okogie's best value is a spot man defender in a final second situation. That's great to have, but Clayton, that's not an area this team needs to worry about. So I just don't see the value here.
No, I understand. Like I said, I agree with you. In other words, basically, it depends on what situation you want to use him in. Okogie is weird because he has I don't know if you remember, to kind of bring us to NFL for a bit. I don't know if you remember that one highlight that Jadeveon Clowney had in college where he smacked the dude from Michigan, and that basically kind of got him drafted. In the same way, there's that highlight of Josh Okogie. I forgot who he locked up, either Harden or someone else, but locked him up, stole the ball, blocked it, something like that. And I feel like that one thing is what kind of made Okogie who he is, I guess. But that and Jeff Teague. But no, man, I don't think that much of Josh Okogie. I think he's purely a depth piece. But to your point, if he's not in ball handling, if he's not in offensive production, So I don't know if there are any further moves. I don't know if you roll him into another pick another trade situation. But I think Udoka knows ball. I trust him. I just think you're adding to your pile of wings when everyone swears around the world the Rockets have no wings. So.
Yeah, I don't think there's another move because this puts them right up against the cap situation.
Right.
If they make another move, it's the first apron, so they're going to keep 14 guys on the roster. That's the plan with the Rockets at this point. It's too bad Okogie's such a poor shooter because he had a couple of eye-popping defensive numbers. He was 3rd in steal percentage in the league, 7th in block percentage among NBA guards. He's got 2.6 stocks per 36 in his career, but last year, a fantastic 4.6 stocks per 36. If you look at his career numbers, they look a lot like Ime Udoka's stats when he played. And in a lot of ways, Clayton, this comes off as Udoka seeing his mirror image over there and going, hey, that's my guy. I'm in love with this dude.
No, definitely. His spirit animal, I guess. I don't know, man. It's one of those, like, coach got to have his guys, too, amongst others. I mean, you got Tari Eason, but okay. It's weird. I don't know. To your point, maybe the moves are done being made. I just know we basically have taken all the wings. So if anybody needs to go wing shopping, they know who they have to speak to. So
you're telling me that, like Jalen Green, we are now Wingstop?
Basically, we kept the Wingstop. We just don't have Jalen.
That's exactly right. You said it better than I did. I was thinking, well, what other options did the Rockets have? And by the way, if you have an idea of another option, get in the comments because I want to hear what you guys have to say. out there listening and watching us, but no question, there's not a whole lot of options out there. Maybe Amir Coffey provided a little more offense and a lot more shooting. He's still out there, 38% career 3-point shooter, 47% from the field. He doesn't have Okogie's wingspan, Clayton, but he's 6'7". Coffey was playing 24 minutes per game on a very good Clippers team, which emphasized defense. There are two areas where maybe the Rockets brass separated Okogie and Coffey. Number one, the on-off splits favor Coffey big time. And the Rockets analytics team were all over this. Okogie plus 2.7 in Phoenix, plus 13.3 in Charlotte. Now, this is bad teams, but Coffey was minus 12.1 in LA with the Clippers, although Coffey played a lot more minutes for more legitimate teams. The other area, number two, rebounding. Coffey doesn't rebound, but Clayton, I mean, come on. Doesn't this team have enough rebounding to make up for that? I mean, come on.
No, absolutely. And I think if you're going to make a strength a super strength, I would rather be more towards the offensive side of the ball. As we've seen, they got the strengths and spades on defense. So I have no idea. I don't know who's in Udoka's ear. I don't know what the decisions are. I know we got KD. I know we got DFS. But, I mean, yeah, it seems like defense and length has been where we've gone. But you know what it is, though? I don't want to say they're following the OKC model. I don't. Because the thing with OKC is one of their superpowers was that they could just come at you with wave after wave of body. And not everybody was SGA, of course. Not everybody was Chet. Not everyone was J-Dub. But you had various guys like Wallace. You had Wiggins, who they weren't the best dudes. They were more spot-up shooters or just were really pesky. But they just could just throw body after body after body at you to harass you. So I don't want to say they're following the OKC model by following, doing Okogie and stuff like that. But I also would not be shocked if they're at this point, they're just throwing bodies at the wall, seeing what sticks, and just kind of coming at people with the offensive improvements that they do have, but then also just super uber loading up with defense and length. So that way they can just keep the ball rolling that way.
Isn't the OKC model, though, guys that can dribble and shoot a little bit? I mean,
yes. Yes. Exactly why I said yes, but no.
Yeah, follow the OKC model because I like that kind of depth. I don't like the one-dimensional guys, especially in the modern NBA. I mean, this current era of basketball, you need as many guys as possible, but you also need guys that can dribble and shoot the basketball. And, Okogie is just not either one of those.
Yeah, Bill O'Brien's favorite word, versatility. That I agree with you 100%. In today's NBA, you can't be a guy who's good at one thing. That gets you put on the bench.
I don't know where else to go with Okogie except that, I just feel like, maybe there was somebody else out there. I mean, it's tough at this point. I mean, you search around and maybe Amir Coffey has got some under the table deal with the team and they just haven't signed him. It's Malcolm Brogdon. That name's been mentioned a lot, but he's had so many injuries. He's just never available.
I saw Seth Curry's name out there, but I saw there was mutual interest between him and the Warriors. I think maybe Seth Curry, if you're thinking just ball handling and shooting. But again, you're scraping the bottom of that jelly jar at this point. Like, we are literally splitting hairs. I have not heard of a lot of big impact names, or at least quality depth guys that are still out there. Okogie just would not have been the first thought that I would have had. Like you said, Brogdon's a good, 2013, 2014 pick, or when was he drafted? But basically a good 8 years ago type of pick. And Coffey, I think, is more solid. I think there are other pieces, but yeah, this is one of those random, okay, I guess if you got $1 in your pocket at Walmart, you just want to spend it on something, I guess, buy that bubble gum. But
yeah, Seth Curry, I'll say this. The Rockets have not valued guys that are one-dimensional shooters that don't do anything else except shoot the basketball. Jack McVay was about as close as they got, and he wasn't somebody that they had on anything guaranteed.
Sure.
They just haven't valued that. I mean, the closest thing that they've done to that in the last, 10, 15 years, since Daryl Morey, became the GM, was maybe Ryan Anderson. And that's it.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And he's about the only guy that
mystery catch and shoot.
I mean, Garrett Matthews, but that was the Rockets. They weren't sort of, just get whatever they could. That was desperation Rockets at that point.
Right. Oh, yeah. Agreed. Yep. Just spread out, wait for hard to pass you the ball and just shoot. That's not that team anymore, but that's literally what that was. And like a Trevor Ariza in today's sound would be awesome, I think. Like, and Bob Mute, guys that fit that kind of mold, like, I would definitely like that. Multifaceted Swiss Army knife guys. That'd be great.
I just feel like these days you need guys that can do more than one thing
Oh,
out
of
there on
course.
the floor. I mean, I agree with the Rockets. I don't like the necessarily one-dimensional shooters,
Mhm.
but at this point, I would like somebody just different than the one-dimensional defensive guys because it
Yeah.
feels like plenty of
Mhm.
that, and especially for a team that just got guys that are out there on the floor that you just literally people dare to shoot.
Mhm.
Amen, Şengün. They've got those guys already, and so one of the things that we got to hit is Jalen Green saying his goodbye to Houston. There was a first person Players Tribune piece. We're going to hit that in a second. But I want to ask our listeners, did you like the Okogie signing? Let me know in the comments. Is there an option again that we haven't mentioned you would have preferred them sign for that vet minimum? Let us know. If you're a Texans fan, I just had on Houston Stressens talking about the first day of Texans training camp. Make sure you check that out. That was yesterday's show. And let me know about what else you might want us to hit on or other guests in the YouTube comments. Just a great way to reach out to me anytime, as well as X HST podcast over there. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and getting our updates on your favorite podcast app, and drop us a quick YouTube thumbs up as well. All right, Clayton, what did you think of Jalen's farewell and thank you to H-Town? Were you impressed?
I was looking forward to this question. I'm not gonna lie. So I actually not a plug, but I did a video yesterday on Jalen Green and that whole Players Tribune thing. Number one, usually, unless I'm wrong, Rob, usually when players drop a Players Tribune, it's like LeBron coming back to his city level retirement after a lengthy career, right? You win a couple championships, you're a grizzled veteran, and you've proven some things in the league, and you're stamping something like that, right? I don't want to be that guy, but when I saw a Jalen Green Players Tribune article, first thing I thought was like, oh, because of course he would do this. Of course, 4 years in, did he have his moments? Sure, but there's a reason why he's on a Players Tribune article saying about A-Sound. I get it. It was a nice gesture for what it was. He says in the article that he grew up here, even though he's not even 25, 26 yet. So okay, but whatever. He has a lot to say now that he's out of here. We talked about it, offhand a lot of times in Twitter Spaces, or X Spaces. Well, you were looking for that kind of alpha from him, right? You were always looking for him to step up, beat his chest, like, I want to be the guy, I want to be the guy. You get traded. We never hear a peep from you like that before, ever. To where now all of a sudden from Dylan Brooks's press conferences talking about motivation. Now you're dropping a Players Tribune article talking about in print, you're going to bust us for 30. I'm sorry, but there's a reason why you're there, and Katie's here. We appreciate your contributions. You have been future endeavored. Thank you so much. Yes, he's grew up here. He has a child here. That's fine. But I mean, okay. Look, if anything, I thought it was hilarious because I think Ime Udoka is the perfect petty type of coach to take that article out and circle that game on the calendar and make sure that if Jalen Green were to drop 30, it would be on like 7% shooting for like 5 from 25 from the field or something like that. Or making sure he goes goose egg by sticking Amin Thompson on him or making sure he doesn't do anything in the game. That's the kind of stuff Udoka would do. So I just thought it was funny. I get it, but it's kind of like, okay, I guess. Meh.
He said some things that seemed very self-aware, like, quote, if I was in the executive chair, I probably would have made the deal too. It's a better situation for both sides. So good for him for recognizing that.
Sure.
But Jalen also said a couple things less self-aware and frankly that made me roll my eyes. Like when he was obviously referring to the Silas years, his first seasons, and said, quote, we were playing every possession like it was life or death. You always knew Houston was going to be playing some defense. And I mean, Clayton, that is exactly why I was worried about Jalen. There were too many games and too many possessions when it never felt close to life or death.
No, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. That's what we're saying. That's what most of the fan base is saying outside of some Jalen Green fans that will never hold him accountable. It's just the up and down, left or right. You never knew what this man was thinking on the court or off the court. You just did not know. Even if you put him in front of a microphone, he cannot give you something substantive to say to help you quantify or even work with him on bridging that imaginary gap between what you see in the court to what you think he's working on. It just never happened. And if there was any improvement on Jalen Green's part, it was marginal at best. And marginal is not good enough when you got all NBA talent on one side, you got an all-star on another side. You know, you got all these floor generals, you got a championship pedigree head coach and whatnot, and co-players, co-stars, and you're still the same Jalen Green. Or I'm sorry, a marginally better Jalen Green, who's iffy at best, barely shooting for 40% from the floor, barely averaging 20 points a game. I got so sick and tired of people citing, he's your leading scorer. You know, he averages it barely. Inefficiently, grossly inefficient. And I'm sorry, last time I checked, one of the most, indictment of a picture, one of the most indicting pictures I've ever seen before is a picture of Jalen Green on the sidelines in that Golden State playoff game with Udoka. You've probably seen it, where Alperen Sengun was going up against Draymond Green to end the game. And you see Jalen Green on the sidelines, posted up with the fans. That's what I remember. Don't give me this stuff now. I remember the guy on the sidelines looking to see his teammates carry the torch to the Olympics. That's what I remember seeing.
Couple more things. I loved when he talked about calling every teammate and coach after the trade. That showed some class and maturity. As an old Gen X guy, it was nice to see people still use the telephone for actually calling people, which is, I think the correct thing to do, especially if you've played with them for the last few years and they mean something to you. It was fun to hear that he was sincere friends with Sengun, but he also made the strange comment that before Sengun, he didn't know Europeans could be down to earth. I mean, he thought a whole continent of people were bougie, is his words.
Bougie.
Yeah, the way the piece read, Clayton, it just came off as a 23-year-old who's still just a kid. He used bro about a dozen times, and I get it that that's current slang, but it comes off as not a pro. If I'm his agent or his marketing person, I tell him, hey, let's take some of that out.
Rod, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And I'm not trying to be harsh. I get it. He was drafted at like 19 years old. But so was Jabari Smith, right? So was Ahmed. So were these other guys who have just the mental side of things, where it's the mental maturity or the lack thereof. It's the lack of ability to, and I'm not trying to get personal, but it's like, we've endured this for 4 years where we have excused this man's behavior. We've just been searching for the maturity on the court, his judgment, his discretion, all these things. And like you said, like the want to be great, the want to be the 1A on the court. And even in an article, it just comes off like, okay, like I said, I think you said it perfectly balanced and objectively. In some aspects, he sounded very objective, very self-aware, very mature. But in other ways, his core shone through. Right. And that's just kind of where we're at. That symbolizes perfectly exactly why we had to make the move that we did, because you just could not trust him to be enough of the adults in the room and on the court to make this work. The Rockets desperately tried. They looked like they did not want to, unless they were just genuflecting, like Skip Bayless would say, for the media, so that way they would not lessen their trade value. But I mean, we all saw it. So there's a reason why he's there and KD's here. There's a reason why. And we're not going to dump on him. But when you make a Players Tribune article and you just give us more things to think about and reconsider, that's what's going to happen. So you're not going to get much sympathy from me. I'm sorry. We saw what we saw. And look, I said it in my video. I hope the best for him. I hope he thrives. I do. I hope that he matures so much more because he's still so very young. But it's going to take him having to grow and to be even more self-aware than what he already is. He just has to, for his own sake.
Yeah, it's going to take years. I mean, he's not close, and hopefully he gets there at some point, but he's not close. And, another part of the maturity is, and look, when he came into the league, I get it. He was 19 years old. And this is something that I'm going to nitpick the Rockets for, maybe more than Jalen, is him talking about he's eating Skittles before a game.
Yeah.
This is not on a 19-year-old kid. This is on the Rockets organization. I'm hoping there weren't people in the Rockets organization, either players, especially coaches, people on the staff of Stephen Silas, that didn't see that and go up to him and say, look, diet is huge. You're a professional athlete. You can't be eating, you need to be eating protein. You need to be eating stuff that's
Something.
sustainable over the course of a game. Sugar is not the way to get your energy before a game, and it's not a long-term solution for you.
Mm-mm.
And I mean, Skittles to me is like poison, for anybody, much less a pro athlete. So like, that's something that I'm just like, for an organization that's supposed to be and has always prided itself a bit being about the details. That's a detail with a young player that should have been out of there like immediately. I don't know if he was saying he did that once or he was doing that regularly. And I know people are out there listening is like, oh, what a nitpick. This is nuts. And there are people that probably think that, what he wrote was really nice and we're being too critical. He did write really nice stuff about Houston. I like some of the really good things that he said about the city of Houston. That was beautiful. Like I said, his closest with his teammates, what the team meant to him. He had nothing but good stuff about the fan, didn't have anything bad to say about the fan base.
Right.
All of that was good.
Yes.
But I think between what me and Clayton are saying is this was obviously a guy that still at this point going into his 5th year, there's still some maturity stuff that he's got to work on. And the stuff that worried me when he was here, it was all in that article in one way or another. When Van Vliet has got to tell him after he makes 3 straight shots, no, we don't want you passing the ball. You're making shots. You're the alpha. You're the guy that we drafted to be this guy. They're putting all this energy and effort into making you the guy. Yeah. You got to keep shooting. And that's got to be his mentality. I'm sure nobody has to tell Ant Edwards up in Minnesota, even a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, they weren't telling him, hey, you just made 3 shots in a row. You need to go attack the next time and shoot the basketball.
Yeah, that's one of those, you can't teach that. And to your point, I would not be shocked, and I believe it fully, if you were to tell me that it was an infrastructural allowance thing with him and Şengün when they were first drafted, right? And no, people, it's not just the Skittles. I get it. We all like Marshawn Lynch, right? Eating the Skittles, the Super Bowl. I get it. We get all the kind of stuff. But from an infrastructural standpoint, right, there's a reason why Brady is Brady, while LeBron is LeBron, why Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry, right? Infrastructurally, and it's not, and I really tried hard not to dump on like Steven Silas, right? I've tried hard not to. But I mean, yeah, we all knew what it was. Like when Udoka came in, that's a grown man's coach. That's the coach's coach. A guy who sat under Pop, a guy who saw greatness up close, a guy who coached guys like Tatum and Brown and was with the Celtics. He knows what quality looks like. He's a no-nonsense coach. So it's like you're flipping the light switch on, right? And you walk downstairs in the kitchen, it's 3 a.m. You kind of, you got the munchies, you're hungry a little bit, flip the light on and some roaches come scattering out. In the same way, it's like when Udoka came in and flipped that light on, all that mess had to stop. Like whether it was Skittles, whether it's mentality, and just as soon as the accountability went like this, Jalen Green stayed here, right? So forget the Skittles. Like the Skittles are just symbolic of the decision making and the organization, right? Like it was symbolic of where the organization was post James Harden, just floating and going in the wind like a leaf and not really having a firm direction or really just holding guys accountable. Really, that from James Harden's years, that was something that came out as like the Rockets sometimes allow a little bit too much to James, and maybe it was just him, but they were so player centric, or at least more it was, to where they let a lot of things get out of hand that should not have been. So whether that trickle down effect happened in the Silas years, I have no idea. All I know is hearing stuff like that. I mean, look, you're not surprised, right? He's still learning what it means to be a pro. He's still learning what it means to be a lot of things. And the Rockets have outgrown where Jalen Green has grown. The rate of their speed increased, and he just couldn't match up with that, at least not anymore. Or you couldn't just hide that anymore. You couldn't hide behind Kevin Porter. You can't hide behind players like that anymore, not when you're expecting things, right? And again, I take offense to anybody who talk, and I know we're not talking about this, but again, it's just going now. I resent when people bring up the Golden State thing as though that's the very first time that Jalen Green has ever shown some instability or some inconsistency or a little bit of you can't trust him. No, was not the first time. If you're paying attention, it's been 4 years of this. Golden State just stamped it and solidified the very concerns that we've been having for years. All they did was accelerate the conclusionary process for decision makers to say, yeah, it's probably not going to work here. And look, if you're the Rockets, it's okay. Sometimes in sports, it's okay to be the Brett Favre situation, where if you remember, he wasn't drafted a Packer. Like he was with the Falcons. He basically his decision making almost either got him cut or just out of the league, and they sent him to Green Bay, and he became what he became. Sometimes you need that team to kick you in the butt, or you need the team to say, you know what, maybe you'll be something, but it won't be in the Rockets jersey. Thank you so much for your contributions, but it won't be here. And maybe that'll help him out. But again, the rate of speed that I think that's going to happen in, to your point earlier, Rob, I just don't think that's going to line up with their timeline of what they want to do right now. And thus, here we are.
And if anybody out there feels like we're too hard on him, or you have a different opinion about what he said in the article, feel free to reach out, put it in the comments. I definitely want to hear from everybody. But like, I don't want to hear anybody say we're a Jalen Green hater. It's not hate. It's we are Rockets fans, and Rockets fans want great players that they feel like they can win with as far as the Rockets are concerned. And that's what this is about. And you have to keep that in mind when we're talking. I mean, this is a Rockets-centric show. This is not the Jalen Green show. This is a Rocket-centric show. If you want to go listen to the Jalen Green show, go listen to that. But I'm a Rockets fan. Clayton's a Rockets fan. But I try to bring real, honest assessment of stuff. And this is where we are on Jalen Green. And I wish the kid luck. He seems like a really nice guy, good guy. Nothing against him personally. This is about Jalen Green, the player. And this is what it comes down to. And that's what me and Clayton are saying. A couple last things I want to get to. NBC announced 2 of their 5 NBA analysts are ex-Rockets. Austin Rivers is one. If anybody remembers that millisecond Derek Fisher was in Houston, the Derek Fisher era. He's the other guy. I've listened to Rivers on the Ringer podcast. He wasn't bad, but Clayton, to tell you how old I am, when I started my TV career, I covered Derek Fisher in college at Arkansas Little Rock. I was working at the NBC station, and we had the coaches show on our station. So I went to a bunch of games. I was on the floor shooting Derek Fisher college games quite a bit. He knew my face so well, Clayton. When I saw him at a mall in Little Rock, he waved over at me. He had been drafted by the Lakers by that point.
Oh, yeah. You just dated yourself, huh? You just dated yourself gracefully. Former Rockets, really, a little asterisk on there. I guess his name was included in the trade package, but I guess, I mean, I've watched Austin Rivers right before. From all accounts, from everything I've seen and from what I've observed, he speaks very soundly. And of course, I mean, he knows the game. His father knows the game, right? Hall of Fame coach. Maybe blame either TNT or, ESPN, whatever. I'm just kind of burnt out on the cycling through all these new people being commentators. I don't know who to trust. I don't know who's going to be there next time. I don't know what kind of quadrant gif I'm going to see of whoever's next. But, I mean, hey, hoping the best for these 4, specifically those 2. I think they got some insights. It just depends on how they mesh together on the media side and the presentation side of things.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of most of the crews these days. I love Kevin Harlan. I think Mark Jones does a good job. A couple of play-by-play guys do nice jobs. Much of the analysts I'm not super big into. One of the other 5 that NBC announced is Brian Scalabrine, who's super annoying. He talks like he's from the streets of Boston or New York or something, even though he grew up on the West Coast, Clayton. I mean, I can't stand him.
Hey, you don't like the white mamba? Oh, red mamba. I'm sorry. You don't like the mamba, man? You're not down with Scalabrine? I mean, you know what? It's funny you say that. He's a perfect social media personality. Like in terms of going on the street, playing one-on-one with people, like busting guys' heads like that. That's great. But dang, I didn't know that you were against the Mamba like that, man. I didn't know.
I hope these new people in the NBA spaces, the TV. I hope it's a little bit stronger than it's been because, I know a lot of people love TNT. I mean, I think I've said this on here before. I can't remember if you and I have talked about this in a space or not, but I was not a big fan of what had happened to the TNT crew over the years. I think once Shaq moved in, it just became so little basketball.
Right.
And,
more personality.
I wanted people that actually knew basketball and
cover the game.
Yeah. Chuck being dumb is one thing. He's kind of like an outlier and Chuck being Chuck. But when you combine him with Shaq and both of them just sit there and literally tell you, we don't know anything about what we're talking about as far as the NBA. And we don't follow, we don't care. We don't like it. I mean, just way too much. We don't like stuff in the NBA. It just, that always rubbed me the wrong way too.
Sure. And look, let's be clear because, in today's hypersensitive time, you got to clarify everything and over explain. What Rob is saying, guys, he's not saying that Shaq doesn't know basketball. He's not saying that Barkley does not know basketball. We're not saying that at all. We're saying stylistically in presenting the game of basketball in terms of X's and O's and analytics, fine, whatever, feelings on analytics, whatnot, just on being able to whiteboard the game of basketball for the average viewer, making it, edible for the average viewer. That's kind of what we're saying. Ernie has that. Kenny Smith has that. But it seemed like the show became too much of a parody of itself and more about the bells and whistles and less about the actual game. That's kind of what we're saying. But all four of those men, or 5 or 6 or 80, I don't know, but all those guys know basketball. They played it. They're Hall of Famers. We get it. Rings, no rings. Count the rings, Chuck. We did the whole thing. It's just stylistic. So I just hope that they just don't analyze this, right? Keep the analysts that are good. And of course, you can transition away from the ones who don't add to the game. Stop just going with personalities that people see on social media. That gets old very fast. And you have people who actually want to hear basketball. Again, not saying these guys don't know ball. It's just we're good on just picking random names out of a hat and picking popular social media influencers. Like, we miss the Mark Jacksons. We miss, all these years like that of like being fed the game and being entertained at the same time. You can't do both.
I'm saying Barkley and Shaq didn't know what was going on in the game. They didn't know the players. They weren't watching. You could tell that they literally weren't watching teams play. You could tell when you listen to people, if they actually know what they're talking about because they've been watching the games. And I'm sure they were watching the games when the games were on their channel that night. But I'm saying, like, it just didn't sound like they knew what they were talking about as far as, like, in general, what's going on with particular teams and stuff like that. Barkley never knew who some of the guys were. I mean, I'm not saying I know back of the bench guys, but he didn't know how to pronounce most of the Rockets players. He would screw up pronouncing the names. Like, this is like, all you have to do is watch any NBA show, and the Rockets were going to come up. They were a 2nd seed last year. And those guys Barkley I would watch them screw up 3 of the 4 names for the Rockets players on how to say the actual, Şengün. They never figured out how to say his name. He was an all-star last year. I mean, come on. He's one of the best young players in the NBA.
They had a whole game, tongue-in-cheek, I'm saying this. They had a whole game where they said, guess what team they play for? I don't know if you remember that. They had that whole thing. So it's stuff like that where it's like, again, we're talking about ratings being down and people not liking the modern game. Well, I mean, it doesn't help that the guys talking about the game are openly just saying, like, yeah, this is trash. I don't even know who's on what team, blah, blah, blah. You can have your opinions, I guess, in like a back room somewhere. But again, you're trying to market the product and be a bridge from the old school to the new school. That's just what they started doing. So, I mean,
And I'm an old school guy, but, I also feel like the game is better than it's ever been in my lifetime, as far as, the styles and the different way the game's played, how much more open the court is. And, 3-point shot has helped. Despite what Charles and Shaq might say about that. It's like all of that stuff has made the game as good as it's ever been. Speaking of the old school, speaking of a guy that Barkley played against back in his day, I don't think they were ever on the same team that I recall, but he definitely played against him. Earlier this week, I happened to drop a classic Rockets interview that I did with forward Rodney McCray, who started on the Rockets 86 finals team. So make sure to check it out if you haven't. But just as a sample, listen to what McCray told me when I asked him about the John Lucas suspension in 86. Now, remember, Lucas was the starting point guard that season when they went to that finals. Does McCray believe it could have cost the Rockets championship?
How worried were you about John Lucas? I mean, you guys went through a lot with the situation with him in 86 going into 87 as well. Were you concerned about his well-being as all that stuff is going on?
Well, at first, being a young guy in the league and not knowing what you know now, your first come to mind is how could you do this to the team? We had great chemistry. We had a chance to do some great things together, but that's the selfish way of thinking. Knowing what you know now, that it's an addiction and that people need help. You think about the well-being of the person more so than winning championships. And we talk about that now when I see him and he comes up to me, he's like, man, I'm with you guys, man. We got championship. We got more than one championship if I, would have taken care of what I need to take care of. And I always tease them. I said, it's not guaranteed we would have got to the final because you didn't play a lick of defense, right? So we lost a great basketball player, but I tease him about his defensive inabilities. But he's turned it around. Happy for him. We talk about it, and older and more mature now. And I'm just glad that he was able to turn it around. And do I think that we probably would have won the championship had he been with us? Absolutely.
Yeah, it's good stuff from him, and it's interesting, Clayton, because you heard him say at the end that he felt like they would have won the championship. One of the keys that season in upsetting Magic's Lakers in the Western Conference Championship was 6'8" Robert Reed's defense on Magic Johnson. Keep in mind, the 6'9" Magic Johnson would have worked Lucas in the post. Trust me on that. Lucas was a small, he might have been 6 foot, but I don't think he was. But necessity being the mother of invention, Bill Fitch had to start Robert Reed, who was more of a forward in those days at point guard. But Clayton, he could handle the ball just enough to start at point guard. And he was the guy that, helped slow Magic down during that Lakers series that they won 4-1.
It's something about listening to the old guard talk about the game of basketball. It just feels different. So it felt like these guys took that personal, like these defensive matchups, offense, whatever, Birds and Reeves now, Magic. Like it's just something about watching those old clips that gets you reminded about why you like the game of basketball.
Yeah, just good stuff. That whole interview with him. I mean, this is somebody, if you don't know, if you missed the interview, this is a guy that played 3 Final Fours for Louisville, won a championship at Louisville, played against Akeem and what's considered one of the great NCAA college basketball games of all time against U of H. It was the Doctors of Dunk versus Phi Slamma Jamma. You also had him winning a championship later in his career with Michael Jordan. And so, you get a little bit of, him telling you in that interview about playing with Jordan, comparing it a little bit to playing with Akeem and what he thought of, like, as far as the Akeem Jordan comparisons and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really good stuff. Go check it out if you haven't already. And I'm going to pull off some more stuff that I've got in the old archives. I've had some classic interviews in there. Rockets, Astros, Texans, Houston Oilers, Houston Cougars, lots of different stuff in the archives. Just want to remind everybody that Clayton's at 713 Sports Talk on X. You've written a couple pieces recently, Clayton. Tell us about that.
So I am a contributor for the Crawfish Boxes. So I've been writing pieces. I've been doing post-game recaps for them, focusing on Bryce Matthews in particular recently, right, when he helped in the sweeping of Arizona. I do write up for Battle Row Blog as well, but I'm kind of still in the fan post section. I have written some Rockets articles for the Dream Shake, and I enjoy what I do, right? Look, we talk sport. I talk sports for free. I would do this just because I enjoy doing it. I've been annoying my wife for years, but I finally been able to put pen to paper and been able to just take a passion and something I do for free and just build relationships, network with people like Rob, who've been instrumental. I tell Rob a lot off camera, like how much he means, like his work ethic and just being genuinely who he is. I'm not just saying that for fluff. Like I mean what I say. So that inspired me to go and just, do what I'm currently doing. So yeah, I write up things and it's organic. Like the moment it comes to me, I try to put it on paper. The hardest thing for me is the formatting. That's the biggest thing. But the thoughts, the words, like we watch the game, so it just comes. I don't have to make it up. But I do have to give people proper credit, references, hyperlink, all that good stuff. But no, it's been definitely enjoyable. The guys at Crawfish Boxes have been great in receiving me. I'm actually doing the post game tonight of Astros A's, so that'll be cool.
Yeah, for everybody that is listening, you also hear Clayton's kids in the background. So the family is they're up and about, and I guess excited about Josh Okogie coming to Houston.
Sure. Sorry about. Hey, look, I'm sorry. Got 3 young ones. I've tried. Okay, I almost threw a pillow at one of them, but they've helped out. They've been holding it down for me. So, but yeah, there you go, right there. So
on cue. Yeah. Thanks for doing this. Appreciate the kind words, and we'll talk again soon, Clayton.
All right, brother. Thanks for having me.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.
Hey, don't forget to support us by subscribing and commenting on YouTube. You can always listen to us on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast app. Tell your friends about us and share our show links on social media. Spread the word, everybody. Thanks for listening.